You're listening to the audio production of From the Rising of the Sun, A Journey of Worship Around the World by Tim Challies and Tim Keesee. Published by Zondervan and read by the authors. A note before we begin. Don't forget to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider. It contains photos and reflection questions and will be referred to throughout as the enhancement.
TC, to my family with gratitude.
TK, to Keith Keesee, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17.
Jesus shall reign where'er the sun does its successive journeys run. His kingdom spread from shore to shore, till moons shall wax and wane no more. Isaac Watts, Jesus Shall Reign, 1719. Prologue by Tim Challies. It began with a prayer. I had been given the privilege of leading the pastoral prayer on a Sunday morning. As I prepared to lead the congregation, a thought came to my mind. The world has already worshipped. Not the whole world, of course, but so much of it. I began to consider that before the sun had risen over my home in Toronto, and before I had left my house, made the drive to church, and begun to worship with the Christians here, so many people around the world had already performed similar actions. All this flashed into my mind in an instant. 18 hours prior, brothers and sisters in Fiji had gathered to worship God. Town by town and church by church, they had joined their voices together to praise Him in song, to call out to Him in prayer, and to hear from Him through the Word. So too did believers in the easternmost reaches of Russia. As their worship services drew to a close, Australians in Sydney, then Adelaide, then Perth began to sing their own calls to worship, as did Christians in Japan and Korea. Next, millions of Chinese believers added their voices, as did Filipinos and Indonesians. By now, nearly a quarter of the earth was reverberating with the sound of Christian worship. Soon Christians in central Russia began to worship together, as did believers in Singapore, Vietnam, and Cambodia. Friends in Kolkata, New Delhi, Mumbai, and a host of other cities, towns, and villages in India began to sing their praises to God. Then brothers and sisters from Western Asia began to join the chorus. Already a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, Revelation 7 verse 9, had gathered in fellowship to bring their offerings of praise. Now Eastern Europe and Eastern Africa began to stir. Ukraine, Greece, and Romania, along with Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. Songs were sung in countless languages, and hands were lifted in tiny villages and great cities. As the sun continued its journey, continental Europe awoke, along with Scandinavia and Central Africa. Then Christians in England and Scotland and Iceland and Portugal and Ghana and Nigeria began to worship the one true God in a host of different tongues and expressions. Just as their songs began to wane, worship broke out in the Americas, first Brazil, then at mile 1 of North America, the city of St. John's on the east coast of Canada. 1,000 songs, nay 10,000 songs, burst forth all at once. Now, finally, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, my church and I had risen to add our voices to the great chorus. As I prayed, I thanked God for the beauty of what He has done in calling to Himself a people from all around this globe. I thanked Him for the truth that as we worship in our little congregations, we are joining into something beautiful, something international, and something that displays the majesty of our God. Later that day I wondered, could I ever go and see this? Is there a way that I could join with some of these churches and worship with some of these Christians? That prayer gave birth to a longing. That longing gave way to a dream, and that dream eventually gave way to a journey. This odyssey took me from the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?